when we come to Dallas for the first time ever, I'm going to go ahead and say success. I don't know how it's been from your point of view, but at least all the people that talk for a living, they said they've loved this trip out here.
That's the feedback to me. I'm in my own little bubble here, going from place to place to place, and haven't had the opportunity for any real feedback. But we'll do an after-action review here and find out how many interviews I did, how many things I did wrong, where I might have said something right, and how many people participated. I know going in we had really good registration from a number standpoint, and I think we've brought people in and kept those connected to us a part of it and in a new place.
They were making fun of me yesterday because I had a USA Today. I know you like to read. I don't know the last time you read a paper. You were on the cover of USA Today. Did you know
I
that?
was?
Yeah.
Was it the front page or the sports? That was sports.
What did I do?
I don't know. I think it was the bottom of the front page. It might have been the sports, though. Anyway,
yeah,
had a nice little picture.
Like just a wonderful person.
Well, they were talking about
things,
how you are
never subject to criticism.
You're open to actively recruiting in the SEC.
Yeah.
And I think expansion. I think that's what it was. Yeah, I think that's what it said.
Was his picture on there or just his name?
Yeah.
I was sent a headline. I was sent two headlines after my remarks. One said, Sankey closes the door to further expansion, and the other one said Sankey opens the door to further expansion.
You got to cover all the bases.
There's one of those doors downstairs. It goes in a circle.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this. There's two
That's
networks
really what
out
I want
there,
to spend my time on,
and they
adding more schools. Like people don't even understand.
Yeah, we've got networks that push different agendas. I guess papers are pushing different agendas when it comes to the SEC. So you take a look at the Open. Do you have Shane Lowry or Justin Thomas?
None of the above. I just have an interest.
Okay.
I think what's happened in professional golf is a lesson for us and all these outside ideas. So we pay attention to the Masters, the U.S. Open, and the Open Championship, as it's known, and golf evaporates relative to what it was 5-10 years ago, in my opinion. I went to the President's Cup a couple of years ago, and this was right on the heels of the LIV thing, and you're like, what are we doing here? It's not the same people, not the same deal. So it's a cautionary note.
Yeah, it really is.
And that's how we were talking about this. I forget which media member was sitting down with us at the time, but they talked about and trumpeted the fact that you value tradition in college football, that you don't want to be perceived or participate in wiping away the traditions of college football from Maine to California, from Washington to Florida. You value where college football has been and where it's going to go.
I don't know about Maine.
Yeah.
The Black Bears?
It's like, they
beat Sylvester Crew back in the day.
They did.
Yeah, they played the McNeese baseball team down in Austin back in 1993 in the NCAA tournament. If you look it up, I was there.
Southland Conference.
They've got Oklahoma this year. The Black Bears does. Yeah. I'm sure you'll be at that game.
No, I'm going to the Temple game first. I was trying to think of which it's been a long week, and you have to process with a little bit more deliberate speed. I would just observe, and I do think the traditions and the culture that we have is important. It's one of those situations where I'd like to be flippant and say, oh, yeah, we're really looking forward to the fill-in-the-blank game against fill-in-the-blank game, but I can't do that. So, yes, tradition matters.
Yeah.
A fiddler on the roof.
So one of your first comments was 16 today, 16 tomorrow. And Florida State has been a big talking point. So what are positives with Florida State and what are negatives? Florida State was a great brand at one time. I'm not going to put words in your mouth. I don't think the SEC needs Florida State, but is there something that is alluring about Florida State?
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Well, I mean, okay, let me try to simplify this. Florida State is not happy in the ACC. Would you give me that? They don't seem happy.
Right, from the outsider's view, I guess it seems that way.
So I will be a representative from Florida State. We don't like the ACC. We see the SEC as the best brand. We love the money the SEC brings in. We want to be part of the SEC.
Well, we really had this great session, Mr. Where I talked about really focused on our 16. And our presidents have said very clearly we're not going to be entangled in legal issues around any consideration of expansion. So it's not a conversation.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we're not going to take our pie and slice it into more pieces. We have to grow the pie. And I have to be aware. So the question that led into this analysis is, are you paying attention? So I have to pay attention. But I think we have this group of 16 is an incredibly strong, well-positioned group of 16 universities and athletic programs in contiguous states, and there's not this need. And in fact, what's happened over the last 3 years, I think, has explained why we did what we did. We've not been reacting. We've not been in a position of trying to figure something out in short order. We were able to make a decision, and there were other calls before Oklahoma and Texas reached out, a decision that was right, that fits, that can continue to elevate all 16 now from where we've been, and we've been in a pretty great spot.
Okay, I'll leave that alone, but can you confirm or deny any of the West Coast teams reached out to the SEC that are now in the Big Ten? USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington.
Well, it's like you say, reached out. I think I've talked about this before, but I kind of repedal things. I mean, it's not like that direct. I called them to say what's going on, just to understand, because I'm responsible to explain to my membership. That's not about the what's. You could go back well before COVID, and did I have phone calls from places? Sure. Did I have a call from out west that started and then said, no, we're happy where we are, and they're in a different home now? Sure. There's conversations that take place, and I think that's a representation of what I said on Monday. Like, I'm not out there recruiting. We made wise decisions for ourselves, but you have to be attentive to the future.
Rockstar Greg Sankey.
I'm sorry, you have to be attentive to what's happening around us, because there's a future out there that's always undefined.
Okay.
Sorry.
Greg Sankey just referenced Lance as Mr. What was their hit, Rockstar? Do you remember?
Mr. was that? She's only 17.
Broken Wings.
Take these broken wings and learn to fly again.
Yeah, Broken Wings.
Broken Wing. Did you like that
and
song?
Kyrie,
that's right. Kyrie, that's a good song.
Yeah. Was that Mr.
It was.
That the outfield?
It's no power.
No, the
of
outfield.
love.
The outfield was
Cover Up.
It was something about
Your love.
on a vacation.
Your love.
yeah.
Your love. Thank you, Rockstar. Your love. That was the outfield.
Play Deep was the name of the album. I remember that.
Listen, I don't like to make hard, fast rules, and this may be an unwritten rule. But when we get to the SEC championship game as we move to the future, I don't think there's a way it would ever be fair that our SEC championship participant that loses that contest could miss the college football playoffs. Is there some discussion, unwritten rule that'll be out there with the playoff committee? Don't penalize conference championship game losers in the SEC?
Yeah, so like hypothetically, 4 10-2 teams, 2 10-2s are playing, 2 are staying home, but they're in the playoff. The 10-2 that loses in the championship game gets punished by losing in that game, and they don't go.
I don't know if you have these.
This is my 4th day of interviews. I don't know what you just said.
Yeah, that was a lot of numbers in
There's
there.
a lot of 10 and 2s there.
Four
So
10
let's
and
back
2s.
up. Let's make it simple.
we're
So
going to-
go back over time, right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So we've had it. I think maybe my first and second year where we had a championship game participant ranked like 16. Right?
Right.
That you could get left out if that's what
right.
your regular season positions you. I think Northwestern was in the Big Ten at maybe 8-4, 7-5.
But I believe those
Pittsburgh was in, but those were not.
Those are products of divisions, I believe.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
But that is true. So you've kicked me in the shins publicly as
Yeah.
I look through the past to inform
Well,
the future.
I was just saying that you've
Why
designed.
don't you have a buzzer that says, man?
I'm just saying you've designed it now. We're not going to have that. We're going to have 2 really good football teams in Atlanta, and I believe.
Yeah, so
you're gonna go to the committee and say.
So I think some of that is circumstance dependent. So like hard and fast rules.
Right.
I think the indication is when you've got 2 quality teams, there's not a lot of movement that would put you outside.
Okay.
Now, if you show up and you go 56-3, that's going to be an interesting view on the selection committee if somebody was on kind of the bubble, using a basketball term, going in. You look last year, you look in really our recent history, the top 2 teams are not threatened by not participating. It's, do you access the reward of a bye and the ability to make plans and preparations well in advance, or are you going to host a home game?
Yeah.
And, it's funny how people have pivoted. Like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. We need to determine a champion on the field. Like that was a T-shirt. I don't know if you guys printed that T-shirt. We want to determine champions on the field. And now it's like we don't want to have a championship game, so we don't want to determine a champion.
Well,
Just
that
have
is true.
co-champions. We'll just have co-champions.
I mean, that is true. That those are competitive thoughts, it seems. Like, we're okay with SEC co-champions.
However the wind blows.
Yeah,
Who
however the
sang
wind
that song?
Yeah, but what
Every
you
way
that
the wind
was-
blows.
Bunny. Oh, that was
Bunny Rate.
No, that, and then that's a line in the chain by
Fleetwood Mac.
Fleetwood Mac.
There
What
go.
you don't want, though, is teams that would rather stay home and not go to Atlanta. And back to it, I'm going to go really slow. Georgia and
10-2,
Texas are 10-2.
10-2.
LSU and Alabama are 10-2. LSU and Alabama are sitting at home. At 10-2, they're both squarely in. Texas loses to Georgia, they drop to 10-3, and they miss the college football playoff. And they're like,
I was disincentivized.
yeah, because I came to Atlanta to play this Georgia team, and we lose, and we're not in the college football playoff, but LSU and Alabama watched us play, and now they're in.
So let's back up. That's a string of hypotheticals, which is fascinating, and I give you credit for preparing it, that ignores every other possibility outside of that group of 4
It was on the fly, by the way.
teams. Yeah. And so I think you have to be careful to say, well, this is the circumstance, and this could happen when there's more circumstances affect that circumstance. So the hypothetical is multivariable beyond what you've described.
Okay.
And the committee has generally said, well, we don't want to penalize teams for that moment. We've got to see and watch and learn. And I've said that within our room. Just stop for the next 2 years. We're gonna see for the first time what's it like to be a single division, 16-team, 8-game conference this year. Period. And we're gonna come back after that's complete, and we're gonna have another set of. We're gonna have more information to make future scheduling decisions. We're gonna see how the selection committee makes its decisions this year. It's not a complete lexicon of information, but it's more than we have right now. And I think that's a beneficial and informed approach to future decision making. Now, how that plays out. We could talk around 67 different scenarios and reduce them to one possibility for the next commercial-free half hour.
Yeah.
Let's just mark this, though, Scott, because there will be 4 10-2s at the end of the season. This is going to play
Mark this, too. Mark this, because we're going to come to this. There's going to be 5 teams. You're going to have a show that says, oh, wow, we're going to have a 5-way tie for second the first weekend in November. This is going to be a disaster. How are they going to break this tie? And then you know what happens? We keep playing games. And it sorts itself out.
I do not regret asking the question. I regret the last 5 minutes of discussion on it.
You won't get that part of your life back.
Yeah, I will
And
not.
imagine how many of these conversations I've had over the last 4
can we
years.
just-
It takes me back to Saturday when I asked my wife. I said, hey, I'm going to SEC Media Day Sunday. Is there anything you need me to do around the house? I regretted that question.
Yeah.
So we're here now.
Do you just want to drop football? We can talk about this
Yeah,
stuff.
I do.
Yeah, let's just drop football.
Well, I wanted to ask you because I saw you from a distance.
Sometimes I think that's what some members of the media expect, like the way
What?
I want to say, well, you've asked me this question 6 different ways. This is about you guys. I'm like, do you even want us to play football or not?
I think we know where you stand on that. I saw you from a distance at the Rickwood Classic. What was that night like for you? We didn't get a chance to catch up, but I saw you were at the game.
I was.
Jim was out of town. Lance and I were at the game with EG and Little T. That was a fun night.
Yeah,
It was a
really
great
cool night, wasn't it?
Great night. So we Kathy and I had been out of town at meetings, came back, changed, went out, and were invited by Rob Manfred. So I visited with the Major League Baseball commissioner a few times about our baseball, Major League Baseball. And that's over the years. He's a Rome, New York guy, which is near where I grew up. And he's got a funny accent like me. And then, I've maintained that connection. They've been really good to help us in thinking through replay models. We learned a lot from being able to go into that video center. I've not been able to. So they invited me in Birmingham. I had seen Rob, just to name drop at Augusta National a few weeks before.
I don't know what the bigger name drop in that sentence
Augusta.
is.
Yeah,
I think I do.
but it's he's done great work. You go out to games and the clock and how he's worked through issues. So I was really honored to be there and got to visit with Senator Britt and her family, Fox team, others from around the community, Mayor Woodfin, and then just to watch and sit. I sat next to Joe Torre.
Did you really?
Texting my brother-in-law, who I've known since 3rd grade. I'm like, hey, Joe Torre just asked me, what's on my plate for work.
Wow. That's really
And,
cool, huh?
How we're thinking about some things.
Yeah.
And, the Fox staff
What Joe Torre asking right today?
Well, what if LSU goes 10-2 and Alabama goes 10-2?
He was thinking it.
You know what Joe Torre had asked you that.
It was 162 in his world, right? And then the honoring Willie Mays, and the way I'd been there to one of the minor league games, and the way they just improved the field. And if you walked outside and saw the displays they had, and the bus from the
everything was perfect.
The bus they had back to like the period of the Birmingham Black Barons era, and like think about driving around the South in the summertime and that contraption with a team full of baseball.
Yeah, maybe it's just the sport, but I've never walked out of a baseball game and been blown away by the experience. Football games, yes. But that baseball game, I was blown away by the entirety of the experience. Have you ever walked out of a theater when you've seen a movie and you're like, that's like just an incredible movie?
Yeah, the first Garfield movie was at a level. We just had a family conversation about summer softball that led me there. I don't even know the last time I saw a movie in a theater, but yeah, sure, Independence Day.
This is Steve Gutenberg now. This is the most sarcasm we've had since the 80s actor Steve Gutenberg was on with us.
He was kidding about Garfield, but then he said Independence Day, which is – I mean, was that a cinematic classic in your mind?
No.
Okay, good.
Blew stuff up.
There was a lot of explosions.
I mean, the first Ghostbusters is a legendary movie in our family.
It doesn't hold, though.
The first Ghostbusters? What? The Stay Puft Marshmallow Man is the first thing.
When's the last time you saw it? Because I watched it with the kids, and I was like, oh, no.
Yeah, but every movie you have to suspend reality for 2.5, 3 hours. You know, Band of Brothers was moving. In a movie theater, Band of Brothers, like you couldn't help yourself. Somebody asked me about the last time I shed a tear in a movie, and I
bet it was
froze.
Ian.
It was what?
Ian Fitzsimmons.
Ask him that. What? So
probably
Saving Private Ryan or Band of Brothers? Because Band of Brothers.
I'm sorry, Saving Private Ryan.
Private
Band
Ryan.
of Ryan was a DVD.
What got you? Yeah, it was on HBO. And Band of Brothers is phenomenal. But what got you on Saving Private Ryan? Where did you shed the tear?
Just kind of a bigger thought about the sacrifice around us that we take for granted.
Right.
It's like one of my moments as commissioner when we honored the pioneers of integration back in 2017. I had 15 minutes with them, and I said, I think we sugarcoat what was happening in the 60s, certainly from your perspective. I was 2 years old, 3 years old, so living in central New York. So I said, what was it really like? And these guys started telling stories, and after like 10 minutes, they're like, why did we stay?
Yeah.
And then they were speaking at dinner that night. I'm like, oh, this is going to be great. And the way they all brought it around to the impact that they now realize. But, man, it was hard. And so you go to that movie and you saw something, but I can't imagine living it. And it's humbling to think about that level of sacrifice.
Have you been to Normandy?
No.
I would love
Charlie
to go.
Hussey and his family just went.
Oh, I
need
need to talk to Charlie,
moving. Yeah, you could have him on for an uninterrupted commercial.
Charlie would never come on our show. Charlie,
he just came back and was talking about just the power of being there.
Yeah, I've always wanted to go. I mean, that piece of American soil in France is. I've never talked to anybody that's been that says anything other than you're just overwhelmed by it.
Well, you go back in time, The Longest Day. I've seen that movie over and over, and the connections, the different cinematic time frame, but an incredible story. And then you read the books. I mean, I've read books about Battle of the Bulge that are like entrenched books of what people were dealing with.
What are you most fascinated with? You're a historian, but when you read, is there a certain war that fascinates you more than another one?
No, the Civil War experience and the people, because we lay modern thinking over thinking 160, 180 years ago, and it's a tough time. I mean, there's no getting around reality, but it was, face to face. And then you read some World War I stuff, like when I was reading about the Spanish flu and the preparation for that encounter. And World War II, I would say, is at a level of fascination. But I've read some Vietnam books from people embedded in battles where I think it's just the start of this was about movies, right?
Right.
And
Garfield.
Yeah. And I walked out of Saving Private Ryan with just the scope of what the sacrifice is to provide what we have. And we're at a time of difficulty in this society that we ought to remind ourselves of what it's taken to get here.
Mike Leach, obviously missing every time we come to these SEC Media Days. And when I sit here and listen to you talk about your readings, I wonder who's filled that hole for you in the coaching room. Is there anybody that you can sit and have a conversation with so off of the gridiron like you used to have with Mike Leach?
I don't think there's ever going to be a set of conversations quite like the ones I had with Mike Leach.
Right.
But Shane and I spent some time talking. So Eric Larson has a book. I read John Meacham's biography of Abraham Lincoln, which I found fascinating, especially when you get through the early years. I grew up in Auburn, New York, and William Seward's home is still there. It's a historical site. And so you're reading letters in this book that were written in that home that I visited in junior high for like history class. And then, so Shane and I were talking about Eric Larson, if you've read him. He wrote a great book on Winston Churchill called The Splendid and the Vile, about his biography.
Oh, Rockstar's read him. Looks up all us Rockstar.
Yeah, so he just wrote a book on what led up to Fort Sumter, and it's all kinds. It's almost play-by-play for years leading in, and people and personalities. And we were comparing notes about reading some of those books.
Brown loved the movie Lincoln, didn't you?
No, I hated the movie. Daniel Day-Lewis. It's a bunch of talking.
But isn't that part of the story? Like the Lincoln, here comes. I read the Meacham story, and I'm in Destin, and I have to give a speech at a dinner, and I'm like stressing, and I've got meetings to prepare for, and I said, you know what? I just read this Lincoln book. He told stories. I'm just going to tell a story and weave it into what we're dealing with. But wasn't part of the story as, here comes President Lincoln with another one of his stories.
No, Brown wanted to see him fight vampires or wrestle for Mountain Dew.
I mean, I'm just being honest with you. I watched it in the theater, and I was hoping John Wilkes Booth would miss and hit me. That's how bad it was.
Wow.
So do you
They
think
popped that hot sports opinion right out of the oven, didn't he?
Thought I'd try that line, see if it worked.
Not so much.
Do you foresee any sort of mechanism where they could change the criteria to get Mike Leach in the College Football Hall of Fame? I just find it strange that and I know the College Football Hall of Fame is not your responsibility, but Mike Leach was one of your coaches, that we just arbitrarily said, they got to have 60% winning percentage. Why was it not 55? Why was it not 58? Why was it not 62? I mean, it just seems like an arbitrary number. And he's one win away, and I think Mike Leach deserves to be in the College Football Hall of Fame.
You guys realize I say things, and then I walk out, and on the bottom of the scroll on SportsCenter, Sankey. And so I'm not going to answer this question, and it's going to scroll.
Yeah, okay. Not from our show.
That's actually what we try to do for a living.
It helps us. I try to avoid it.
When it does, the young lady in the green dress there is going to be the queen.
We got to go from Hugh Freeze earlier.
I want this waiver. It goes nowhere.
Okay.
I think common sense can prevail.
It should.
I think you don't have to have X batting average to be in Cooperstown.
That was my point
People
yesterday.
make decisions.
Yeah, voters vote and say he
Jeter should have been unanimous. So should Nolan Ryan.
No,
Probably a few others.
Yeah, but so I mean, I just think there's got to be some mechanism to address this.
I think what Ryan
You're
is
telling
saying,
me to go get that done. By the way, he was here 3 years, and he's now my coach. I enjoyed working with him, but he was in other places for longer periods of time.
Are you an In-N-Out fan? In-N-Out Burger?
Yeah.
You want one? We got some coming.
Oh, do you? Like right up 75. I've stopped there. Probably where it's coming
do you
from.
really?
Well, I'm
Catherine,
moving
you
on.
want a burger?
I'm moving on.
Okay, Catherine. Catherine's got him bugged.
I'm a Whataburger fan too, but big fan of Sonic, official sponsor of the Southeastern
Well, we
Conference.
can get you that too.
They built one of my neighbors.
Yeah, you moved out of our part of town and they built one.
Yeah.
You should come
They
back.
put a Culver's down there too. Which
They did.
Not endorsing, but there's ice
We
cream.
do.
Yeah,
Culver's one of our fine
I had to
sponsors.
get out of the neighborhood again because Dunaway's driving by, texting on his cell phone.
and I got
jumping into the bushes while I'm running.
Bigger truck now. I wouldn't have missed you in this truck. I promise you.
He's widened the bumper and he's got the flares off the fenders.
That's right.
Your the sponsorship thing's been big for you now. We got an official airline now, Southwest too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
What does that mean for us?
Do we get perks being SEC media members?
I know there were luggage tags.
There
in the
were.
bell
Yeah,
pens.
I do have a luggage tag now.
Yeah.
Yep.
That doesn't discount my ticket though.
They'd get you closer, though. I can tell you that. You delegate your social media. She's flying all over the country because she knows how to play the game, probably.
In all seriousness, and I'll let these guys get back to non-sports questions, but I was just blown away. And I said I disagree with Paul about it being the biggest moment in SEC history because we've had so many big moments that I hate to put it down to a team that's yet to play in the league. But I was enthralled watching Texas and Oklahoma, the celebrations on the SEC network. That was moving, that they were so excited about coming into what I consider my league, where I grew up. Being there, was it as exciting there, more exciting there? Did you see how moved the fans were?
Oh, yeah.
Making the move into the league?
Yeah, in a lot of ways. And I learned never be the last speaker before Pitbull.
We do have that T-shirt.
That was bad scheduling.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, when I met him, he smelled good. And then he has his own fragrance. So
How
that's
short
an
is that guy?
endorsement.
Yeah, he's very short. You're much taller.
Yeah, but he's put together. He knew what was going on.
Really?
I've met people. He knew what was going on, moving into the league, Southeastern Conference.
Nice
Huge
guy.
sports fan.
Yeah, he was very engaging.
Did you call him Pitbull?
No, it's like I sat and had dinner with Jelly Roll, and I'm like, from you to me, didn't see that coming in life. He was
looks
awesome.
like he could eat.
Yeah, but he was great.
No, I've heard he's a really nice guy. Yeah.
Man, he'd tell you a story, and it's like, is it Mr. Roll? And he gave me his first name, and then Pitbull did much
Why
the
were you
same.
having dinner with Jelly Roll? How did that happen?
I was at an event around the Masters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All I can see is Taylor, and on SportsCenter's ticker it says Sankey. Pitbull smells better than Jelly Roll.
I didn't say that.
Well, you kind of did.
No, I
Taylor's
did
not
not say that.
I bet that is the first time in SEC Media Day history somebody has said Pitbull smells good.
Probably.
But it was one of those takeaways. He was very engaging, and you give a guy credit for that because he's all around Mr. Worldwide.
Quiet.
So anyway, back to Jim's question. You could feel it at both places in different ways.
You can feel it at home.
You could feel it. And I haven't had a chance to watch the scenes that were on the network, but I spent some time with the coaches from each campus, and I told all of them how much I respect people across this 16-team league that have a decision in their career and choose to be here. I mean, if you're coaching in this league, at any of our 16, you can coach anywhere and go do that. Man, they want to take on the competition. They want that challenge. So had that conversation, then just walking around with the fans, and I don't know that they know me. They were selling for the first time at both places SEC logos on their gear. That was pretty cool. And if you go back to 2021, I've told Paul there's an interview with me announcing the invitations being offered and accepted. It's the most subdued membership entry experience for a commissioner ever because we wanted to be respectful and orderly. It was a surprise. We were catching up to almost our own news, and we were intentional not to be flying flags on campuses and logos and things like that until they were here. And so to have the moment that they were here be such a big celebration is special to be a part of. That's one of those days that both of those days that I'm going to remember as long as I can.
You want to do the list with him? We've got he's got a hard out at 2:00. So
While you're pulling it up, it is commercial free, but not without sponsors. Our friends at Champy's World Famous Fried Chicken, Highway 119 in Alabaster, great Southern fried chicken, Mississippi Delta recipe tamales. They are there to help you win your tailgate this football season, whatever SEC stadium you're going to. Champy'sChicken.com. Sterling and the Crew, Highway 119 in Alabaster.
You always like to throw a little humor in there, and you've got to leave at 2:00 because you've got to go introduce Mark Stoops, right?
Yeah.
Part of the introductions, you could say his ultimate doppelganger is Axl Rose. Do you think there's similarities between Mark Stoops and Axl Rose?
Never crossed my mind.
You're looking at side by side.
Look at it.
You're looking at – you need to redirect your attention to history books or something, I guess, or movies.
Well, you know who Axl Rose is, though.
Yeah, but
Did you ever see Guns N' Roses?
Yeah,
in
you're
person, no.
you're the one eating dinner with Jelly Roll.
At the Masters. That was a heck of a trip to Augusta. Rob Manfred and Jelly Roll.
I can't believe Augusta National let Jelly Roll in there.
Hey, he was there. I saw photos.
Big
It did
star.
look strange.
Yep.
Okay, here we go.
as nice as it could be.
Oh,
I mean,
Jelly. That's all I've ever heard.
He just told you a story. I was blown away. I ended up at dinner, didn't know I was sitting next to him. And
Were you a fan of his music before?
I didn't really know. I didn't know.
I mean, he has sung a lot about his
Yeah,
troubles.
so I heard him perform the night before, and I learned a lot.
He's got a heck of a voice.
Yeah, and a heck of a story, like beyond a heck of a story.
Oh, yeah.
We talked about how he travels, and still, I think he's still a guy who's wide-eyed by where he is right now.
Yeah.
Appreciative. It was a neat deal.
Yeah, it's a heck of a redemption story.
So in a perfect world, would you rather watch a big game on your couch or actually in the stadium?
Do I go to the stadium like I do now? Like in and out?
You got your access.
Yes, I'd go in person.
Okay.
Yeah. He almost missed the. Did you miss the overtime Iron Bowl because of me, or did you actually stay when I told you the game was over? You stepped out to take a phone call, and I told you Auburn had picked up the first down, but there was a review.
That's the Bryce Young Iron Bowl touchdown.
It was 20.
I kept heading out. I needed to get away because, and it was last year too. You don't know where it's going at that point. And so I was out watching on the road between the baseball stadium, along the baseball stadium with a bunch of fans.
Yeah. It was actually when Alabama did not pick up the first down and they reviewed it, and you had taken a phone call. You came back in and said, what happened? I said, well, they just overturned Alabama's first down. This game's over, and you left, and then Alabama got the ball back, went to overtime. So I kind of felt bad about that.
Real quickly before your next one, 16 strong, we always encourage you to participate at the stadium. Get off the couch, go to the stadium. But if you can't make it, watch our television partners.
And we've put all of our kickoff times out already, so you can plan right now
that's
for
huge.
September, October.
I do like that.
I do like that.
Beach or mountains?
Mountains.
Tom Hanks or Denzel Washington?
Tom Hanks.
Nashville or Dallas?
Is this city or SEC media?
Let's not bring it back here.
No, it'll be back here eventually. Wow. I loved living in Dallas. I lived here, so that's a point of differentiation. My kids were born here. I've got friends that live here.
What's the best steakhouse here?
Three Forks was at the top of my list. I assume it's still here. Bob's is great. It's right downstairs from us.
Yeah,
there are a lot of great steakhouses.
I tried to talk.
Papa's Steakhouse is great. Albernays, right up here.
I tried to talk the crew last night and driving to Fort Worth and eating at Joe T. Garcia's. Have you ever eaten at Joe T's?
I've not.
It's really good.
Is that a miss on my part?
I think so. If you lived out here, and now it's 40 minutes from right here, but I think it's worth the 40 minutes. Couldn't convince enough of the crew.
Nick and Sam's has gone down, by the way.
Yeah.
You're passing a lot of good stuff to go that far.
You are.
But if you go out to Weatherford, there's a great little golf course I remember from my coaching days. So you could combine the trip.
I would love to do that. Could I suggest? I brought this up on the show not long ago. Now that ESPN, ABC own all the rights to SEC, we do media days at Disney World.
Okay.
I mean, is that an approval or it was just an idea?
Or we'll explore possibilities. We'll add that to the suggestion box.
Can you imagine how many members of the media would try to get that family trip on the company dime?
I think it would be. It'd be free passes.
Free pass, yeah. I mean, could you also
I
set
had
it
not
up?
thought directly about that until this moment.
Right.
Now I'm processing. What would that mean?
Well, I mean, I think members of the media would need access to the parks as well.
That's my responsibility.
Well, I
or
mean,
their
you're
employers?
the one that's going to be negotiating this, or someone in your crew.
I mean, I saw today that there's like 7 or 8 different types of Dr. Pepper.
I saw some different colors or different flavors.
So would you rather have a really good margarita or a really good old-fashioned?
None of the above.
Okay. You can choose Netflix or all the other stream. When it comes to like Amazon Prime, Hulu, HBO Max.
I'd take all the other.
Okay.
This is where he's sitting there going, future media rights. Future media rights. I'll take all the others. Thank you.
Godfather or Goodfellas?
I'll just Godfather.
Do you like both of them, though?
No.
You're not a mafia guy? You grew up in New York.
I grew up in New York.
Yeah,
therefore I must
assume.
I lived in Utica.
We don't like the
I lived in
stereotype.
Utica for 2 years. We assume you're tied to the mob.
Yeah, but okay. Obviously not.
Hey, we've had a lot
I will tell you. I told the story last night in my commissioner interview. The search firm gave me a name, like you couldn't. That I get picked up in a car. I know where I'm going. Everybody knows I'm a candidate. I'm like, why can't I just be me? No. Every one of the semifinalists, there's 8, have to go by a pseudonym. And so I'm like, well, what's my name? And I can't remember. It's like Michael Cusimano. Yeah. Like, there's no chance of me getting in trouble as Greg Sankey in this thing. But now,
Michael Cusimano.
Making associations here.
Yeah, I worked with a Frank Cusimano in Lexington.
Okay, well, I don't mean to disrespect
No,
that.
no.
We had
That's they gave me this name. Where you're like, what? in the
We had
world?
an intern, Chase Cusimano.
Chase Cusimano.
Okay, let me just change it.
It won't run on the
No,
ticker.
it's fine.
Italian or Mexican food?
Never go to war with a Sicilian when death is on the line.
That's
true. That's from?
They're pretty good. No, what is that from?
Princess Bride.
Princess Bride.
Italian or Mexican?
Can I take both? I got to choose one.
You got to choose one.
If it was really good Italian, I would go there.
Yeah. Again, from New York.
Better show, Seinfeld or Curb Your Enthusiasm?
That's unfair.
See, I never liked Seinfeld, but I love Curb. Like, Curb is so
So I don't encourage people to watch Curb. There are many offensive parts, but then there's some stuff where you're like, holy smoke.
some of his stuff, makes so much sense.
I was at a formal event, a very somber formal event this year, and we were there an hour early, and I had taken a golf lesson a week before and had taken notes. And they're all on paper, and I had a note card, and I wanted the note card to carry with me while I played. It had distances on it and some swing suggestions just to think. So I brought it in, and I'm sitting there, and I'm writing notes on my note card for my golf lesson, a very somber event, realizing this is like a Larry David. What am I doing? And I'm like just trying to be efficient with my time.
So would you go Curb over Seinfeld?
He never recommends it, but I get the
Yeah,
feeling. Yes.
probably.
The answer is yes.
Yeah.
And
There's
finally,
a couple things that
Leon. Leon is one of the best characters.
I can't
in
endorse
television
that.
history.
There was a baptism that was misinterpreted as an attempt to drown someone, and some of my colleagues who've wondered about. One of them went to a Baptist church for Christmas and was observing. Yeah, it was great until the recruiting part, and I'm like. Recruiting, and it's like the invitation at the end of the service. And so
Trying to let
how
blue
we,
chips.
from a denominational perspective, think everybody understands.
Right.
I thought that comedy was not offensive. It just illustrated that people have very different perspectives.
Best sporting event you've ever witnessed in person?
Oh, geez, I've seen a lot. So I just talked about seeing Nolan Ryan's no-hitter. I mean, it's hard to see a no-hitter.
It is.
Yeah,
It's hard to see Nolan Ryan. Yeah.
Seventh and final no-hitter at Arlington Stadium. Syracuse beat Nebraska in the Carrier Dome in like 84, 86. Nebraska was number one. Syracuse was nothing. That was
Nolan Ryan, that was 91, right?
91, yeah. The Georgia-Oklahoma Rose Bowl in January 2018 was at the top of my game list.
Boy,
Just
we were talking
incredible.
about that with Dvorak the other day in that very chair about, I mean, basically a squib kick decided that game.
Oh, yeah, it had the halftime thing.
Yeah, the halftime
and the
script.
play by the up.
yeah.
But, to be in my role, the first time I was a commissioner on the field for a college football playoff national championship, that was Clemson, January 16. I'm waiting for the Final Four, the national championship, and the men's Final Four. The volleyball national championship is the only time I've been emotional. Like, believe it or not. So
Why
that's
so?
it's the end of COVID. There aren't many firsts that I could participate in.
Yeah.
We never won a women's volleyball national championship. Kentucky ended up beating Texas. But that sport was so on the edge back in July of 20 that people say, well, you did this during COVID. Like, that's one where I look and say, man, if we hadn't tried and given up, they never would have had that chance that way. Now, maybe they would have stuck around, but I don't think life, you hit the pause button and then just come back. And I said that to a New York Times editorial board member, like in September of 20 when we were about to play. And at the end of it, he says, well, we've already written our column. Thanks for your input. Wait a second. It's not like we would all stop and not do anything this year and come back and everything's fine and the same people are involved and nobody's in a different circumstance. So in the moment that they were winning, that just became one of those things that, wow, just by making more effort, we provided an opportunity. So that was a pretty neat
That's
thing.
really cool.
I was going to ask you, and I assume you've seen Caitlin Clark play in person because you probably saw the Iowa LSU game, right?
Yeah, I saw her as a freshman. They played Kentucky when Ryan Howard was on the team down in the bubble event, and she was special then. You're like, wow.
24-19 last night.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan was WNBA Rookie of the Year, was our Player of the Year, and Caitlin as a freshman was just unstoppable by her. She was defending her. And then, to see I've seen the last year's Final Four, so LSU beating them here, and then South Carolina this year up in Cleveland. Those things are pretty cool to be a part of.
Not controversial. Is 2019 LSU the best team you've ever seen?
Yeah, it'd be hard to figure out a team just from an overall talent. That was just impressive. You think the Auburn game down at LSU I was at, that was about the closest game.
Would love to see 2020 Bama and 2019 LSU.
Yeah, and I think the 2020 Alabama team, and I think this about the 2010 Auburn team too. I think those were, and I think this about South Carolina's women's team this year. Incredible coaching jobs, because of the circumstance. Like South Carolina women's basketball, the roster was flipped. And yet what they did, they went undefeated.
She can coach.
2020, everybody was fragile. When we went to 10 games and some people complained about who they played, I think you had no idea, like in August of 2020, I don't care how talented you were. In my sense from watching, I got to know Mac Jones. He was on our leadership council, was just Nick's style change. I think the work Gene did in 2010 with the distractions they had to keep that team focused and reach the national championship game was phenomenal. I think the way Tony Vitello led this year, and I told him this, was really impressive because they were not at the beginning of the season what they were at the end. You just watch that team continually improve. And I could go on to other circumstances, and every one of these championship teams is great. But it's fun to watch really effective leaders work at that level and produce those results.
Did you ever have a great conversation with Ed Orgeron back in the day?
Yeah, so he was a Northwestern State grad. The first time I sat by him, we were in Louisville. I remember he asked me a question. I had to ask him 5 times to repeat himself because I couldn't understand him. And, we had some great conversations. We had mutual acquaintances, talked about some of the changes in his life. And but that first time, he's at Ole Miss, brand new head coach, a lot going on. He was asking me, is that rule in effect now? And the way it came out, we were in a meeting. People were talking. Is that rule in effect now? Yeah, I could understand that.
All right, he's got to get upstairs. So you want to play the game real quick?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Are you ready?
We got
I
some
thought that was the game.
No, we got a chance for some ice cream money for you over
That's
here.
right. But first, we're just going to give you a thank you gift for appearing. All of our
choose an envelope.
All of our appearances. Good, thank you. You're also in the drawing for a $250 Roback gift card, roback.com, code TNR.
Which will be given away before the show's
That's
over
right.
with.
That's right. You may win it.
We got gifts. We brought gifts this year.
It's like everybody involved.
Every
guest.
single attendee here in your chair has received
every
a gift.
media person, every coach, every player.
What'd you get?
I got an invitation to Thanksgiving dinner at the Dunaway House.
Oh, you're going to love Mackey's.
Mentone. Have fun with that.
He'll
let you go for him.
I got a gift card for a restaurant that's out of business. I think that's gone bankrupt. So there's no value.
That's another Red Lobster. That's a hot one there.
Red Lobster, but all right. If you'll stand by Lance and you can play the game.
Walk over
Do I go with my headset on?
Yeah,
Yes, you do.
please.
Yes, you do.
Yep.
I saw the Augusta National Sox too. That was one heck of a trip you had.
Yeah,
there.
so just
started this
you
like
can line
5
yourself
years
up.
ago.
Yeah, anywhere in this vicinity. You get 2 shots. There is money in every bucket.
What am I doing?
You're just
put it in
trying
a
to ring a bucket.
Did we sign a waiver for this, Catherine?
You did not. Yeah, this is a late ad. Oh, he's 1 for 1.
Oh, that was in.
Only 2 individuals went 2 for 2, and that was Roman Harper and Quinn Ewers.
That's right.
That second one was in.
It was close.
It rimmed
Do you
out.
drink coffee?
I do.
Okay.
You gave me coffee last year.
Did you drink it?
Is this medium roast or dark?
Which one do you want?
You guys got to get dark.
We've
I
got
think
dark.
we got dark.
So you gave me medium roast last year.
Okay. We'll get dark.
I was a little underwhelmed.
Will you check for dark back there?
We need robust.
Yeah.
And you get some too, Catherine.
Is this
Yeah,
Arabica
please.
coffee or is this Java?
It is. It's curated. We have 3
$20
growers.
bucks?
Yeah.
You guys must be doing well.
Oh, there's some hundreds somewhere. I'm told that just nobody ever wins them.
Yeah.
The second one was in, but you didn't tell me there was coffee in there. It knocked it out. It's like Shaq as a freshman throwing the ball into the stands.
Oh, look at this. We got.
That's the dark roast.
Is that dark roast?
Yeah.
Thanks,
By the way, Media Days 24% off. Go to nextround.store. You get a free bag to take home. Ground it up, enjoy it.
Do you have whole bean?
Is that not whole bean?
Oh, it is.
Yeah. You're my favorite part.
No,
of
I
this.
have Cuisinart grinder. At home,
Yeah.
So this works.
My favorite part. Look at our pictures, and we leave one of the hosts. You can draw in your own hair and face.
I'm looking at the plant behind one of you, wondering what were you thinking there? What is that?
I don't know.
I haven't
I
looked
don't
at it.
know.
It's a very familiar.
Oh, yeah.
it is.
That is not marijuana.
Yeah. It'll give you.
Do
That.
you guys still test for that in this conference?
Boy, I've never seen you in the.
We don't do drug testing at the conference level.
Good answer.
It's wise.
That's Commissioner Greg Sankey.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much, Commissioner.